Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us this morning on the show. Up next, I'm going to have a very insightful discussion with a professional entrepreneur, a writer, and a book publisher. He will be telling me all about the business of writing and publishing a book. Let's meet my guest and great Dr. Cletus Offiong. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Thank you, ma.
First of all, I'd like to know before we start the main discussion of the day, what motivated you into going into this line of career?
Okay, I want to say that I started writing when I was in JSS2, far back 1999.
Oh, wow.
So a friend contracted me, a classmate contracted me to write a letter to his girlfriend.
Interesting.
So, which I did. So I didn't know what happened. The girl became angry and reported us to the principal of the school. So the letter was read in the public and everybody was clapping. Everybody was cheering up. So, and after like 2 days, a teacher walked to me. He said, "You are a good writer. You can start writing."
Wow.
So I became.
And that was the beginning of
that
it.
was the beginning. I didn't know that I was
Gifted.
gifted in that
Interesting.
area.
That's a very interesting way
Yeah.
to discover yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, now tell me what motivated you to write your book. And also tell me when writing and publishing and of course marketing a book,
Okay.
what are the things that you take into consideration?
Okay, I started writing my books. I think that was 2005.
Okay.
I wrote a book, a novel, and the book was well read by secondary school students. Even when I was in secondary school,
Oh, wow.
yes, the book was widely read by my fellow students. So I think steps that are needed to write and publish a book. Number one, you must understand your target audience. Who are your target audience? Who are you writing to? That is the first step. Then the second step, you must be a reader. A good reader is a good writer. Then number three, you must be able to know the quantity of books you want to publish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I understand that you also write for other authors and help them to publish.
Yeah.
You know, when you do all that, what are some of your marketing strategies for authors?
Yes. In writing, one of the challenges of writing is marketing.
Okay. Why is
But
that?
because of the poor reading culture of our society, many people are not reading. But I want to say, hardly for me to write a book and not sell. If I write a book, if my book is released this month, it does not take me 2 months to sell off 1,000 copies because I have the market. I have the connection that is needed to market my materials across the state of the Federation. Abia State, I have a marketing base in Lagos. I have a marketing base in Ogun State. I have a marketing base in Abuja.
Interesting. Has your online presence in any way aided in your line of work?
Yeah, so many people are of opinion that social media has destroyed writing. It is not true. Rather, social media is a platform that is even helping, complementing writing. So I discovered that more buyers are attracted to me through my online presence.
No, really.
Yeah. Through my online presence, I advertise my books online, and I educate my audience online about my books.
What are some of the things you write about?
Okay, I write
Because
career.
I think as a genre,
Yeah.
there are different topics and different and a wide array of areas that a writer can write
Yes,
about.
yes. I am an academic writer,
Okay.
educational writer, because I'm an educationist. I'm a teacher by
Okay.
profession. I am also a pastor. I write for pastors.
Motivational.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very interesting to know. Now, tell me about your experiences so far as a publisher and as a marketer. What has your experience been so far on the journey?
The funding. I could remember that it took me 5 years to publish a book because of lack of financing. Yeah, lack of funding. Financial constraint is is a very big challenge in writing. But thank God I was able to meet my uncommon transformation governor in person of Gospel Abuja when he was a governor. When he looked at my work, he was happy, he was impressed, and gave me money.
Wow.
And that was a good starting point for me. And that help is what has sustained me to today.
Wow, that's very interesting to know. Now, for those who want to publish their books, their journals, or a memoir, or anything at all they want to publish, what are some of the steps you will advise them to start taking?
Number one, you need to, just like I said before, your target audience.
Okay.
Two, you need to consult a professional. Nowadays, people want to write, they go to printing press and print and publish. So I want to advise writers to always seek the guidance of a professional publisher.
We were interacting and we spoke about the difference between a publisher and a printer. Let's quickly go through that.
A printer may not be educated. A publisher is educated, is more educated than a printer. A publisher is a writer and he is also a printer.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me about how affordable it is, this art of writing and publishing. Let's look at the affordability or not.
Yeah, the
What
current.
is involved?
Okay. It involves a lot of funding. It involves a lot of money to print a single book. Like between 32 to 48 pages of book will cost a writer not less than 300,000 naira. Then between 100 to 200 and 300 pages of book will cost you not less than 500,000 naira. So is the cost of printing material currently is very high. Very high.
Interesting. Well, this morning we're here discussing the art of writing and publishing a book, the nitty-gritty and business of it. We'll take a short break at this point. When we come back, Dr. Ofyong is still in the house to tell me more. Please stay around. Welcome back, and we're still here in the studio of Good Morning Abuja discussing the business of writing and publishing a book. Of course, Dr. Ofyong is still here. Doc, I want you to tell me, as a publisher, is the publisher also responsible to review the content of books before publishing, especially when you're working with external authors?
Okay.
Who's responsible for reviewing and editing and all those proofreading?
Okay, the writer and the publisher. I think it would take like 5 persons to review your book before publication.
Why is that?
Because I think book writing involves a lot of professional um, to go through the book before publication. You need someone that is good at English language. You need a psychologist. You need a sociologist. You need a lot of hands for you to have a good material for the public.
That's interesting. Now, what are okay? You've talked to me about the criteria that are needed to be published.
Yeah.
But I think you should expatiate on it more. For somebody wanting to publish their book, what are the criteria if they come to you?
Okay. If you want to publish a book, first of all, I said it before you start writing, know your target audience. Know your target audience. Are you writing to students? Are you writing to general public? Are you writing to professionals? So your target audience is number one requirement for writing.
I see.
Yes. Number two, you need time. You need to create time for yourself to develop a good writing. You need to have time to develop a good writing. So you need you need to spend like 2 to 3 hours a day or in a week for you to be a good writer.
Maybe if we have the time, you will tell me how long it can take to conceptualize, write, and publish. But for now, let's take a look at the challenges that writers and publishers face, especially the problem of piracy.
Okay, piracy, okay.
How do you curtail it?
Yes, that is why it is necessary for you at the manuscript stage of writing to obtain ISBN number.
Okay.
So ISBN number is for the security of your work so that your work will not be pirated. So you need ISBN number for your work to secure your work against piracy.
So the implication for a layman, once you have that ISBN number, no other publisher can generate that same work.
No. Even the title cannot be pirated. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And are there any other challenges?
I said financial
funding.
challenge, funding and marketing. As I speak to you right now, there are a lot of people listening to us now who have published a book and they have not been able to sell.
Wow.
There are people listening to us right now that have published books and they are not able to sell. So marketing is one of the challenges.
You need to be able to get it out there for your audience to see.
So many people have published books 4 to 5 years. They have not been able to sell up to 100 copies. At the end, they end up distributing the book free of charge, dashing people because they don't know how to sell. But we have the market strategy. Yeah.
Between publishing online, like on Amazon, for instance, and getting physical copies out there in the market, which one would you say is gaining more acceptance?
I think a physical publication.
Okay.
Physical publication. This online publication, Amazon publication, most people that patronize us are not Africans.
Okay.
Yes, and that depends on what you write about, what you are writing about. So, physical publication is online publication comes after physical publication. So you need to have two.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the time you do that, are there any laws prohibiting you from publishing or selling in other countries, especially on Amazon?
No.
Okay, there are no restrictions.
No restriction.
All right. Finally, before we go, Doc, I want you to tell me about those who have passion for writing, those who want to go into publishing. what will be your advice to them?
Okay, don't be in a hurry to make money in writing. Before I started writing, I wrote up to 50 unpublished books. I think one of my mentors told me that not everything you write you publish. You publish. So don't be in a hurry to make money in writing. So keep writing. Keep writing.
Aha, I said I was going to ask you this. Is there anything called writer's block? You know, sometimes as a creative, you just discover that there is no zeal at this point in time. Where do you get your motivation from?
Yes.
What motivates you to write when you don't have the zeal?
Read. You need to read books. You need to buy books. You need to read books. Reading helps you, motivate you to write.
Well, Doc, I have to thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. I have learned a lot from you.
Thank you.
And I hope to see more of you again on the show very soon.
Thank you, man.
There you have it from Dr. Ofyong. A writer is also a voracious reader. You cannot be a good writer if you're not an ardent reader, because two of them go hand in hand. And like he also said, do not be in a hurry to start making all the money from your writing. It's a gradual process. We'll take a short break at this point. When we come back, there is plenty more interesting things on the show this morning. Thanks for staying with us and welcome to our discussion segment. My guest will help me talk about the art of training for professional exams. She is an educator and also a trainer. Let's meet Obong Yahweh. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm interested in wanting to first find out what your line of business is all about. Who's an educator and a trainer, and what prompted your interest in choosing that career?
Thank you very much. An educator is more or less like a facilitator, one who steers, a potential in the right direction. That's how I like to frame it. So we are trained to be able to identify potentials in children and steer them towards that direction. So that's why I say we're more or less like facilitators. So from the perspective of trainers, what we do is to ensure that those potentials that we have identified, we're able to get them to become skilled in them so that those can become means of earning a living, making an impact in the society. So that's basically what I do. Now, what got me into that? It's more or less like it wasn't actually my first, this option per se. I actually wanted to become a chartered accountant.
Okay.
Yeah, and I started off studying accountancy.
Wow.
Yeah, but I had to leave the university where I was schooling. So it took a while before I could gain another admission. And so I had an aunt who asked if I was interested in studying economics, even though it was economics education. And she talked, my parents and I into it that, I can always just go ahead and do my ACCA, and become chartered afterwards. And I opted in. But when I got into the classroom, I loved especially the psychology subjects.
Okay.
I was intrigued with the fact that, look, you can actually make an impact by just getting one child to believe in themselves. So when I had my first teaching experience, all the students were larger than I was. Wow. And I was taken aback. I was like, okay, am I sure this is what I want to do? Because I was
secondary school?
Yes, it was a secondary school, CMS grammar school in Lagos. And so when I stepped in there, I was like, I had better be knowing what I'm doing, because if you fail to make the right impression the first day, especially with teenagers, that's it. You've lost them. You've lost them. So I stepped into the classroom and I said I was just going to talk to them like I was talking to my younger ones. And the experience was remarkable. It was beautiful. The impact that my presence there made in such a short duration. And that was what piqued my interest. And I said, wow, I think I want to,
continue
doing this. Yes, knowing that impacting one life is impacting an entire generation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now tell me about the steps and criteria needed to excel in this line of job.
All right. So other than of course, usually going to College of Education and getting your certifications and becoming a professional by ensuring that you receive your license to be able to practice as a professional teacher from National Union of Teachers, it goes way beyond that to constantly improving on yourself. I always tell people because being a teacher or being an educator is, is being called to lifelong learning. Because we found ourselves in a generation where we're preparing students,
dynamic.
And it evolves
It
at such a
evolves.
fast rate that we're beginning to tell ourselves, look, we're not even certain of exactly what we're preparing these kids for, but we just want to make sure that they have the right skills to be able to adapt. And if you, who's supposed to be the facilitator, do not know how to adapt to trends and changes, it's a problem. So it's a lifelong learning process. You have to continually be on the top of your game. You have to know what current trends are, new teaching strategies, techniques, how to be able to engage with your students. You can actually teach without learning taking place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's possible. You can just go and rap, blah, 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 blah. And the kids will just sit down and just give you your due respect. But at the end of the day, no learning has actually taken place. So you have to be passionate about,
Serious.
yeah, So you have to be passionate about actually wanting to make an impact. That is, you want to be able to achieve something at the end of the lesson. You don't want your students to walk into your classroom the exact same way they left. If you're not passionate about that, you're just going to cover the curriculum, do your own bit, get your salary at the end of the month, and say, yes, I'm a teacher. So it all boils down to your perception as a person, your passion, what you want to do, the impact you want to make in the world.
Interesting. Now, in the training session, when you hold classes, especially long durations for classes, what are some of your strategies? What techniques do you adopt to make sure you maintain focus and attention?
Wow. One of the since I deal mostly with senior secondaries, so I deal with teenagers a lot. And one of the things I've discovered is for every class it's different. For every set it's different. For some of the things that I do is that I try to get a lot of activities, I like to incorporate a lot of activities in the teaching learning process. And I don't go into the classroom assuming I know it all. I've actually had some students who really, really knocked my socks off. And I was like, wow, I've taught some really very exceptionally gifted kids.
Wow.
So one of the things I learned from them is you don't walk into the classroom or walk into the teaching space, because I also do virtual teaching. Okay. So you don't walk into the teaching space with the perception of, oh, I know it all. You're walking in there open-minded, seeing that you're a partner and it's a partnership, knowing that these kids already have knowledge and they are quite aware of quite a lot of things. And when you walk into a classroom with that perspective, you tend to give them the opportunity to give their own input. It makes it very interactive. The more interactive a class is, the greater the impact, the easier it is for students to recall. So incorporating a lot of activities by carrying them along, letting them have their say, letting them feel comfortable enough to be able to communicate when they do not understand a particular concept. Having another person explain better, using better examples than you could have, the exact same thing that you have probably just repeated 2 or 3 times. Those are the little things that do make a difference, in the teaching and learning process.
Interesting. Like you said, teaching has evolved over time. Techniques have changed. Tell me about some of these changes, and what are some of your effective teaching and learning techniques?
Now, the one thing that is really big now is the concept of differentiation.
What is that?
Differentiation is understanding that every individual has their learning style.
Okay.
We all learn differently. For some of us, we're visual learners. Whatever we're talking about, you must have some visual form to it, whether it's pictures or it's videos. For some of us, we're more audio inclined.
Okay.
Then we have the tactile learners. Tactile learners are those that must do hands-on activities. They can't sit still for too long. So whatever you're doing, you need to make sure there's a lot of activity in the classroom. So understanding that you'll have a very, very diverse classroom is key. And then Having understood that, then designing your classes in such a way that you are able to adapt, different parts of the lessons to suit the learning styles of your students. Now, I will confess, it's very challenging.
Tasking, I
It
can
is.
imagine.
It
Because
is.
you have to incorporate all three.
Exactly. Exactly. And then sometimes you might even find it difficult to identify the learning styles of some students longer than you had anticipated, the ones who just don't want to be in school. So, but understanding that they have different learning styles and modifying your lessons, knowing that your lesson plan is just a plan. You don't have to follow it, in total. Knowing that anything can happen in class, having that at the back of your mind will help you to be able to adapt. And then once you're able to begin to spot, the fact that, oh, this is resonating with this kid. Oh, this kid seems to like talking a lot. Oh, that kid seems to like visual concept a lot. Then you're able to build on that over time. Yeah.
Learning for a professional exam. What can you talk to me about? What can you tell me about how to learn and prepare for a professional exam now?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because that's one of the challenges that teachers do face or educators face, in the sense that you have your syllabus,
Okay.
you want to make your classes as engaging as possible, and at the same time, you've got a deadline. You have to prepare these kids with the right skill set and to be able to actually have all of the knowledge they need before going into the exam hall. So, one of the things we try to do is first understand your syllabus or your curriculum. If you, as the educator or the facilitator, do not understand the curriculum or the syllabus, you're in for a serious problem. So once we understand, if we take our time to study the curriculum, understand what type of exam you're preparing the kids for. Is it a content-based exam? Is it a knowledge-based exam? Or is it a skill-based exam?
Okay.
Because there's a big difference, right? So once you understand the type of exam you're preparing the kids for, then you go, because I always say that standardized exams are the easiest to pass if you know what you're doing. Because they will always tell you the skills you're going to be tested on. They will tell you what content you're going to be tested on. So once you're able to identify if it's skill-based or content-based, then you now identify exactly what skills the kids require. And those are the things you begin to harness on. So things like, for instance, ability to evaluate, ability to analyze, ability to discuss, knowing what the difference is between an explanation, a discourse, and an evaluation. Those are the things that will make a big difference. Teaching them skills like how to do the elimination method in multiple choice questions, how to be able to answer, even when you come across a question that you have no clue on, you being able to use context clues or elimination method to identify the right options, time management, self-confidence. Because one of the things we have to do is to begin to tell the kids, look, no matter what anybody has said about these exams, you've got it. You've got everything it takes. You're not different from others that have aced the exam. So we begin to do that right from the very beginning. Because for a lot of them, there's a lot of fear. Oh my gosh, it's a standardized exam, So those are some of the things that we do
Very
to try and
interesting.
prepare our kids.
Let's take a short break at this point. When we come back, we are here to tell you more on the educating and training for professional exams. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is the discussion segment on Good Morning Abuja, coming to you from the Unity Station NTA Channel 5. And I'm here with Emma Yahweh, an educator and a trainer. Yes, I'd like you to tell me the difference between training online and training in a physical class. What are the basic differences, and would you say which one works better?
That's a tough question. Yeah. Now, physically, you're able to see your students, you're able to read their body language, you're able to incorporate a lot of hands-on activities. it's easier to modify lessons, especially if what you've planned isn't going well. Let's say you planned to do a pop quiz, for instance, at the beginning of the class, but you discover that most of the students do not even understand the previous lesson. All right, you can quickly incorporate activities. Okay, let's quickly do a group work. Put them into groups and all of that. You can do that with a physical class. With a virtual class, it's not like it's not possible, but you need to ensure you have certain skill sets to be able to do the exact same thing. We have a lot of softwares, educational softwares that help us now, but there's a lot of limitations as opposed to what you would have ordinarily been able to have achieved if it were a physical classroom. Yes, you can have breakout sessions, you can have research-based activities where you ask the kids to quickly do a research online and come back and give you feedback. You can put them into groups. You can give them a seminar real quick and all of that. It's possible virtually, but there are some limitations. And then with our extremely smart kids, some kids who just don't want to be in class can make you believe that network is terrible. They intentionally choose not to turn on their cameras, or they can choose to say, they just begin to stutter and make you feel like, the connection is not too strong. So it's a lot more challenging virtually. But there's some students who actually do prefer virtual classes. You're right, especially the ones who like to learn, who prefer learning by themselves. Those kind of students do prefer virtual. So yes, it is challenging. It is improving. I mean, with COVID knocked all of us into a state of, whoa, okay,
This is possible.
So there has been significant improvement in terms of educational softwares there, but it's something that we have to keep building and developing on.
Interesting. Tell me about how do you source the relevant materials and projects? How do you determine which ones to really go for, especially in an exam?
What I usually do is once I've looked at the skills requirement and the content base, I like to gather current information on that particular concept. Like for instance, if we're talking about let's say we're talking about the American economy, say we're talking about the impact of government on an economic system. It wouldn't make sense for me to still be talking about Joe Biden.
Okay.
Do you understand? Everything we're going to be doing will have to be with Trump. We're going to be comparing, for instance, his first tenure and thinking about how we think there's going to be changes in this new term. So apart from the fact that you always have to be updated on current info, you also have to ensure you get your kids doing the exact same thing, because most times it is from current information that these case studies from exams actually arise. So the most important thing is keep reading and getting updated on what is currently happening.
That's interesting. How do you measure success, especially to determine that you're on the right path with this particular class?
It depends on whether it is a class that I'm preparing for an exam, or if it is a regular classroom where we're just having regular classes. Now, usually, for every teacher, you have an objective at the beginning of a lesson, and generally, we would say if we're able to achieve at least, let's say we have 4 objectives. If we're able to achieve at least 3 out of those 4 objectives, we'll say yes, learning has taken place. Yeah, that's in the context of following your lesson plan. But in reality, some students can vomit verbatim whatever you've said. Meanwhile, learning didn't really take place. So what I like to do is I like to get my kids to apply the concepts that they've learned. So don't just define economics, for instance. How do you think that the concept you have just learned can help you make a better decision tomorrow? So that's why when we want to teach concept, we like to bring it down to everyday activities. We apply it to our everyday lifestyle. So I ask them more of applied questions, and applied questions are at the highest critical thinking level. Once you get them thinking beyond oh, she's just going to be asking me definitions, characteristics, content. If you get them beyond that level, they get to pay more attention. And then at the end of the class, they're able to tell you whether or not they have actually learned. And then another thing I do is I teach them how to mark their work themselves. That's especially for those I'm preparing for standardized exams. So I show them the marking scheme. I tell them exactly why I'm assessing them the way I'm assessing them, and I teach them how to use the marking scheme to grade themselves. Initially, they won't be able to do so, but after a couple of trials, it gets to a point where, as they're done writing, and I tell them to assess themselves, they can spot exactly what they haven't done right. What it does is it gets them thinking like the examiners. And because they begin to think like the examiners, they know which area that they need to improve on. Because I tell them, I'm not just here to prepare you for a standardized exam. I'm here to get you to learn a skill that will help you for life. So once they're able to get to that point where they can spot that, oh, I was asked to evaluate, but I only explained I should have done this, then I've been able to achieve my aim.
Interesting. You work with a lot of teenagers, like you
Yes, I do.
said. How do you keep them motivated?
It's a tough one.
Teenagers.
Yes, it is a tough one because the first thing you need to do is understand that they're human beings and they deserve to be respected. Oftentimes, one of the mistakes adults do is they still look at them as kids, and that's the one thing they do not like. Approach every one of them from the perspective of this is an individual and I respect you. Let them understand it. Communicate it with them and to them in a way that they will understand. Then let them feel comfortable around you. When I mean comfortable, I don't mean comfortable to the point where they begin to indulge in all sorts, but let them be able to step into their real selves because most teenagers have two faces.
All right.
Yeah, most teenagers do. There's the okay, I'm in front of an authority and I don't want to misbehave. And then there's the oh, this is me, I'm cool, this is my friend. You want to have the I'm cool, this is my friend part. Why? That's where you get to know what is going on. And like the scripture says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. Getting them talking and is usually a major challenge. If you can get them talking, you know what you're thinking. And once you know what you're thinking, then you're able to correct. So one of the things I like to do is I create an environment that allows them feel comfortable enough to talk. It doesn't matter whether I understand half of what you're saying or not. In fact, I do tell them, look, I get what you said, but I really don't understand half of what you're just trying to say. So teach me. And once they see that you have genuine interest and you really care about them, then you're good to go. So that's what I do.
We're getting to round off, but I want you to quickly tell me about all of them are not equally gifted with IQ level and all of that. How do you tag along and pull the ones that are with the low IQ? How do you drag them to tag along with the class?
Passion. Remembering that you're not just there to get 70% of the class to where you want them to be, but that you want 100% of them to be better than they were. And letting the ones who are not necessarily up there understand that, look, there's nothing wrong with you.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay not to be an A, to get an A in every single assessment. Helping them to appreciate little steps. So for instance, you got an F in the last assessment, but you have a D today. Celebrate. That is a remarkable improvement. So applauding every single improvement and getting them to focus on that shifts them from that wrong perception.
Thank you so much. And in a minute, what is your advice, your line of work? What is your advice?
My advice to educators is please know that everything you do matters. Every life matters. And if you make an impact in one life, you have affected an entire generation.
Thank you so much for coming. It was pleasant speaking with you.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. Well, there you have it. The art of teaching and inculcating skills has gone just beyond standing in front of a classroom and giving out instructions. I learned a whole lot from this discussion. Stay with us on Good Morning Abuja. We'll take a short break and be back.